Corner of Cinema, episode number 170, being recorded on Thursday, July 3rd, 2025 at 12:21 p.m. And with that said, we are officially halfway through the year. And now is a great time to reflect on the year behind us so far, what we started off the year wanting to accomplish, and what we have accomplished, what progress we're making towards, whatever it might be. And to really kind of be fully aware of the time that's given to us. It's sort of like the people talk about all the time. You get older and it feels like time's moving faster and faster, and oh man, it feels like it was just the start of the year, and oh, this year was so many years ago, it feels like it was so recently. And some people get overwhelmed by it. They're like, oh my gosh, we're moving faster and faster, and time waits for no man. But it's really important to kind of be fully aware of it and to use your time to wherever you see fit. So if you find yourself in a situation that you don't want to be in, if you're going out and going to some restaurant, or milling around, or doing nothing, or staring at a wall, you don't want to be doing these things, then don't do it, man. You got to be really firm with people. I'm a big advocate of time not being wasted. And if somebody's like, hey man, let's go out and let's go to the bar and let's have a bunch of beers, or hey man, let's just hang out and watch TV. It's like, thank you for the invitation. I appreciate you thinking of me, but I'm good. I got too much to do, man. There's just so many films to be watched, so many books to be read, so much writing to be accomplished. But you got to live the life that you want to live, man. So if you want to go out and hang out and, go to a bar or hang out and watch TV, and that should be what you're focused on, man. If you want to go out and hang out with friends or acquaintances, and someone's like, no, I want you to stay here and do this instead because I want you to, then you got to be really firm and just say like, nah, man, I am not a passenger in my own life. I have to be focused on the goal at hand, and whatever that goal is completely subjective. It's completely you. But yeah, there's so many films been watched this year. So much writing has been accomplished. Books are being read. So much to do in that regard, in all the regard. But it's just a wonderful, wonderful life to live. Every day is just such a blessing, and we really don't want to take that for granted. We really don't want to be, at our final days and being like, oh man, I should have done this, I should have done that, I should have, whatever. I was scared of this or I was scared of that. To really kind of be fully aware, and to really kind of just do it now, because if you're saying that 5 years ago you're going to write this great novel, and then you're sitting here today and you're like, well, in 5 years I'll do it, from now I'll do it in 2030, how you're going to do that in 2035 and 2040, but it's never too late, man. It's never too late to really kind of to live the life you want to live, and that's the important thing. It's not like, you can't compare yourself to others. Like, oh man, this guy, he's made all these films, he's younger than me, or oh man, this guy, he wrote this book, and he's whatever. You got to focus on you, man. It is not a race, man. It is about making the best product that you see fit. And anyways, I just want to put that up there for that. So with that said, for 2025, I wanted to kind of just quickly go through. I mean, there's so many films to talk about here, but I wanted to kind of highlight some of my favorite films of the year so far. I have a little list on Letterboxd. I just have my 50 favorites of 2025 in alphabetical order, and I kind of put them into categories, so to speak, to kind of highlight a couple that I wanted to talk about, but. When it comes to what I said before, a little while ago, is that, the 2024, 2025 gap, in the past, I've tried to kind of, when I was doing those list videos, like, oh, well, it was released here at this time and not released. To me, it's sort of like, I don't really have time or interest in doing that. I mean, if I look at, like something like The Brutalist, I counted that for 2025 because it was released for me to see it in 2025. I'm sure maybe if you live in like a big city, you probably saw it in, maybe November or December of 2024, and that's fine. I'm only speaking for myself. So like for me, I mean, like something like The Brutalist is I've talked about that film before. I think that's a brilliant film, and that would be one of my very favorites of the year. And then even something like The Nickel Boys, which is, I guess, technically 2024. I'm not really interested in in dividing the line there. I just want to put those out there. Brutalist and the Nickel Boys. The Brutalist I don't see leaving my end of the year list, and these aren't ranked or anything. This is just alphabetical order. The Nickel Boys, was really really exceptional. So that we'll see if that stays or goes. But then just quickly some other films that I've mentioned on the show before, but just wanted to kind of reaffirm in alphabetical order. Black Bag, the new Steven Soderbergh film, really tight, solid spy film. Gets in, gets out, great performances across the board. Solid stuff. Ephus, and also I think I should probably mention maybe where you can watch some of these films off the top of my head. So if you're interested in any of these, Black Bag is on Peacock, I believe, and it might be on Blu-ray right now. Ephus was really great, really solid. Baseball comedy drama, very meditative, very much sort of like this never-ending game of not wanting to put this game behind you, this sort of change coming. That has a Blu-ray coming out from Music Box Pictures. That's great to see. Misericordia, I think if I'm saying that correct, actually just got added to the Criterion channel. Very good. I also don't mean to sound redundant if I say very good, so bear with me. But I'm also kind of rushing through a lot of these quick. But Misericordia, really solid, almost dark comedy in a way. It's one of these films where it's best not to know anything going into it, and sort of the absurdity of the situation where when you're watching it, it's not like laugh out loud funny, but it's in retrospect, you're like just the ridiculous of some of the situation, but good, good solid comedy drama that more drama than anything. I wouldn't watch this, expecting laughs, but it has those kind of absurd moments that it's better off to not watch it knowing what's going to happen ahead of time. I think you'll be waiting for something that I didn't see coming, basically. Presence, which is Steven Soderbergh's other film. Beautiful photography in this, man. Beautiful camera work, the way that the camera goes through the house. This very low-key kind of ghost story that really doesn't reveal fully what the whole idea is until truly like the last 10 seconds of the film. Steven Soderbergh, man, he's just one of these guys who he can just put out these really good low-key films multiple times out of the year. He has far more hits than misses, and the fact that he nailed Presence and Black Bag so well that they're both just really good films and happen to come out so close to each other is really kind of exceptional. Seed of the Sacred Fig it seems like every year there's that one or two foreign films that gets the Best Picture kind of nomination, and I felt this was the one that should have been nominated for Best Picture, and I'm Still Here I thought was good. I did think that was a good film. To me, I got a lot more out of this. Its runtime may turn some people off. It is almost 3 hours, but it's such a tightly written film, such a tense film, and the third act has there's really kind of intensity to it. This great long sequence at the end without any music that really people say it a lot, but it really had me on the edge of my seat. But yeah, that's one of my very favorites of the year so far. September 5th, again, might be 2024. I think it's supposed to come out in like November, December, but didn't get a release here. Oh, I hadn't even mentioned some of these being able to watch, so I'm not going to go back. September 5th is on Peacock, I believe, as well. Good kind of almost a bottle film in a way about the 1972 Olympics in Munich. And also wanted to pair that with One Day in September, the documentary, a good look into the whole situation. Again, it'd be interesting to watch this without the knowledge of what happens, but good kind of bottle film. The Surfer with Nicolas Cage, that's getting I think a Lionsgate exclusive Blu-ray, which I really don't like that they're doing that. Let's hold the conversation. This is such a great, it's a great hallucinogenic film, but it's one of these where what I mentioned when I was talking about it is that it's not just crazy for the sake of being crazy. There is that foot still in reality, so it's not just like we're just gonna have a bunch of crazy visuals and do whatever we want to do, and it doesn't matter because it's hallucinogenic. No, this has a foot in reality and a foot in this this wild state of being trapped in this open cage, no pun intended, of just under the hot Australian sun, and just everyone in this small area just going out of their way to mess with Nicolas Cage. I think this is one of my very favorites of the year. I would almost say I love this film. And Universal Language, which is one that I saw pop up on Canopy. Really funny film. This was one that I forget where it's from, so I apologize. But yeah, just some of the dialogue in this was really cracking me up. It steps into this otherworldly kind of situation at times where I don't fully understand some of it, and I think that might be not even a geographical issue, but I just might need some more context. But again, really funny film as well. I saw this with an audience, and they were really enjoying this. So I want to talk about. I kind of put these into categories. Sort of some of the films I want to talk about, and I guess I'll just go through. And because I they're not like an alphabetical order or anything, but I kind of put them into these little boxes here. I guess I'll talk about first off, because these two will kind of blend into each other. I'll talk about some of the strong horror films this year. Horror is not a genre that ends up typically being on my favorites of the year, and I don't think either of these two will. But I think that's kind of why I wanted to talk about this in the first half of the year, because in the second half, when a lot of the films, it'll be interesting to see what films stay, what films go. These two I don't see being on my favorites of the year by the end of the year, but they're both still very good, and I wanted to mention it. So yeah, like I said before, horror in general, not one that it's not a genre that I'm particularly attracted to. I think the ratio of films that I'm not crazy about to films I really like is not strong, but this year there has been some good ones. Ash was one that it was kind of a shame it didn't get a wider release. I mean, I don't think it. I mean, it played in a decent amount of theaters, but this was out pretty quickly. I mean, I think this only played for about a week, maybe two tops, at my local cinema. This is one as well that I didn't really know anything going into it. The stars Isaac Gonzalez. And it's one where I think the less said, the better. If it's a double-edged sword with this film, because I think that there is a lot that is unknown when you're watching the film. Of like what's going on. This woman wakes up in this space station. She doesn't know what happened. She can't remember anything. And what happens is basically it's a pretty simple story by the end. I think where the film kind of loses me a bit is it becomes needlessly complicated with all this build up to this simple, I don't want to say simple, but the reveal is not this big grandiose thing. It's pretty straightforward in a way where it reminds me of another very famous horror film that if I tell it to you, you'll know exactly what the reveal is. But it is really good, man. Watching this theatrically, which is what I mentioned before, that seeing this theatrically was like, man, the sound design of this film was great. There's a couple like loud noises that come in here and there. It creates this really good sense of isolation and really good sense of just like, man, putting all the pieces together and this sort of frightening kind of imagery, which some of the imagery in this is really good. I don't know what the budget on this was, but the whole like space station stuff, all the spaceship stuff, it has wonderful photography. Aaron Paul was in the film as well. Actually, it's a pretty good cast. This is directed by this guy Flying Lotus, who I know he directed that film Kuzo from a couple years ago. I'm not familiar with his work. I think he's primarily a musician, to my knowledge. But I heard some people putting some comparisons to Kuso in this film. I believe, to my knowledge, that film's a bit more like crazy, a bit more otherworldly, no pun intended. But I wanted to see that when it came out. That was 2017. And he also directed one of the segments for VHS 99, which I haven't seen. But yeah, good film, good space film, great photography, great imagery. Yeah, it's really a shame this didn't get more talked about. And then the other horror film that I want to mention was the return of Final Destination with Final Destination Bloodlines. And again, double-edged sword with this one. I have a big problem with this, but overall, I think this was a really, really good return to the series. Because the last one, Final Destination 5 in 2011, I thought was a great way. If that was the last one, I would have thought, like, man, if that was a great way to truly wrap up the series. But that was 2011. This is Bloodlines, and I really like the idea of this. And again, I don't want to say anything, give anything spoilery, but it's double-edged sword. With this one, they're doing something new with the whole idea of death is coming for these people. That this one, it's generational, where you have this really incredible, and they're all, these films are built on the big opening, and the opening here is really frightening, but also darkly comedic in a way. There's a gag with a piano that got a big laugh out of me in the audience, and sort of this idea of no matter what you do, you can't escape death. You have to, once it's in play, you have to keep on going. It's going to keep on going, and I like that they introduced that. I think my big problem with the film, and I'm not going to get into spoilers, because I feel like if I'm trying to find a way to word it without just flat out giving away what happens in the film, but I think that they could have done more to deviate from the previous films in one specific way that I can't get into. That I almost is kind of like, damn, it's actually almost, that's kind of disappointing you didn't do that, because ultimately it's just a really good Final Destination film. But it is, these films are also built on the, as much in the opening as they are with the elaborate deaths. And I didn't watch the trailer for this. I intentionally did not watch the trailer. I actually watched it after the film, because a part of the fun of this film, or these films, is seeing, like, man, something is set up. Maybe a nail is on the ground, or, there's a piece of glass in a blender that, or, that gets, like, part of, like a bunch of ice that people are drinking. It's like, ooh, what's going to happen? Are they going to drink, are they going to drink the glass, or is somebody going to step on it? Or it's like, the fun is like, man, what is going to happen? And it's really tense. You have these kids who are jumping on this trampoline. There's like a rake underneath it, and you're like, oh, are they going to fall through and hit the rake? And that's fun. And then you watch the trailer and it just gives it all away. It gives away the death in that whole sequence. It's just like, all right, well, and I heard that seeing this in IMAX, I didn't see it in IMAX, but the aspect ratio apparently changes when a character's about to die. So people were laughing, saying that, the ratio is giving away the kills beforehand. But the characters, I think, are really good in this. The brother character, who is like, he's like a tattoo artist, sort of like punk rock sort of guy. I really like that character. He has a whole bit with one of the other characters where they're in a hospital, and there's like some dark comedy there. But like the characters I thought were really solid. And that's why I think this one and the fifth one are so strong, is that you really actually like the characters and you really feel for them. But it's a solid film overall, and I hope they do another one, because I really, really had a lot of fun with this. So that's going to lead into my favorite horror film of the year, unquestionably, and it's one that's interesting, kind of the reaction that it's been getting, because I don't get emotionally a lot out of like a lot of horror films, but this was one that I really did, and it's a film that I've talked to some acquaintances about. I think people have strong opinions on it, positively or negatively, and I'm very much in the positive camp of this. And that's 28 years later. I was really kind of taken aback, because I talked to some, I have some acquaintances who are really hardcore into horror films, and it's funny, some of the ones I end up really getting more out of, they're the ones who are not as crazy about. Like last year, I thought Longlegs was one of my favorite films of the year. It has some exposition issues in the third act, and I'm not going to deny that. But for me, that was like a really good, really creepy film, and it was interesting talking to them, and they were very kind of down on it, but I like hearing what they have to say. That's what I talk about. I don't want to read Joe Schmo's review, because they could be like, oh, this movie sucks, blah blah blah. But if I have an acquaintance of mine who says something sucks, I'm like, okay, interesting. I know your background and what kind of films you like, and I'm interested in why you dislike this. But I was listening to an acquaintance and talk about this. Somebody being really negative on it. He said it was a piece of shit, and I was just like, man, I just can't get on board with that. To me, this isn't that much different than 28 Days Later, where you have the first half, which is, in this case, I think it's a really good, really tense zombie film. And I feel people say infected. I don't care about anything, because they're zombies. When they act like zombies, they walk like zombies, they're zombies. The photography is incredible in this. I loved some of these shots in the film. There's one shot in particular that like almost made the hairs on my arm stand. I thought it was so creepy, and that was when there's a character who in the distance there's a zombie on a hilltop. I think the shot actually might be in the trailer, and he's saying like like it's almost like a bear, like don't move, don't we if the zombie sees us, we're screwed, and you just see the silhouette of a zombie in the distance, and all these other zombies just walk up behind the hill. And this deformed kind of like their body movements are so creepy, and it's such a tense sequence. And I thought, man, I'm actually getting creeped out by a contemporary horror film. That's great. That's all good and all. First half, a really tense, really exceptional zombie film. To me, where the film really shines is Alex Garland's writing, especially in the second half. There's an emotional core to this that to me was the strongest part of the film. Yes, the zombie stuff is great, don't get me wrong. That'd be a good horror film in its own right. There's like one sequence in this film with two characters talking about really having to deal with loss and deal with, the world that they're in, that it almost like was making me emotional when I'm watching it. And to me, that's why I'm kind of like dumbfounded, where there's two big obvious issues with this film. Number one, the ending's terrible, and there's no way around it. They're trying to set up another franchise. That's fine. If that was an after credit scene, that'd be one thing. They shouldn't have ended the film on that. I think it takes away the emotional kind of core of the last act. There's a very clear ending to this. They go on for another 5 minutes. I'm like, okay, you shouldn't have done that. And then two, there's one scene which is very convenient in a church I thought you really didn't even need that scene. To me, these are nitpicky things. Besides, well, the ending is so much. To me, I'm kind of taken aback, and I feel like that's where I'm a bit out of touch with contemporary horror because I haven't seen much contemporary horror that really kind of moved me the way this film did, and the fact that this has been so derided and so like, well, this sucks, and I'm like, man, maybe I'm the one who doesn't like horror because to me this is, I mean, and I'm only speaking for myself, so you may disagree. You may, because like I said, my acquaintance who really didn't like the film, I respect his opinion. We had a good talk about it, and I don't, and he's entitled to his opinion. That's totally fine. To me, this is so much better than so much contemporary horror. I don't see a lot of contemporary horror that really sticks with me more so than that was like a really good scene or that, like Ash and Final Destination, both good films. Am I gonna remember them in a year? Probably not, but they're good, solid films. To me, this is like one of my favorite horror films I've seen recently. And yes, it has some this conveniences. Yes, this has some, some writing that's not great. But just that sequence alone with these two characters just talking about having to say, having to deal with this loss. I'm like, this is a great film that I just can't get on board with. This is a piece of shit. I think that's such a terrible, like such a wild exaggeration of a statement. If you don't like the film, that's fine. But a piece of shit, that's insane, man. I almost love this film, and if I'm the minority on this, fine, that's whatever. This is two halves of a really great film put together. Yes, the flubs are there. Do I want to see another franchise of this? I don't know. They're setting up some stuff that I was like, I don't know if you really needed to do that. But yeah, it's the character writing in this that I think is so solid, and it has those tense zombie moments. The first half is so tense, and just there's this great photography of these zombies at night with this red kind of filter on it, and it's like a terrifying scene. And I know people aren't crazy about some of the kind of like alpha like zombie thing. It's like a video game. I get that. But to me, that's kind of added to the horror of it. It's frightening. I mean, this is one where when the zombies are around, it's actually frightening because they're not just running at you; they're doing everything they can to like you are the target. And there's one great shot that I was like, wow, this is amazing, where you have two characters who are running towards the camera, and the camera's like flying in at the zombies running towards the camera as well. That like made the hairs on my arm stand. To me, this is like so obviously one of my my favorite films of the year so far, and I just can't get behind just being like, oh, this sucks. Like, man, I mean, to each their own. I'm not trying to dissuade anybody, but to me, it could just be me. I'm out of touch with contemporary horror, and I'm not as attracted to these kind of films. That's fine, but I thought this was such a well done film, and it's just I already it's this. I'm confident this will be on my end of the year list. This is one of my favorites. Speaking of Alex Garland, another film that he had this year, again, one of the best films I've seen this year, which is Warfare. And actually, funnily enough, I just got the 4K of this. It's actually on the shelf across from me. I gotta put that away. But Warfare as well. This is co-directed by Alex Garland and Ray Mendoza, and it's a simple story. It's almost like a bottle film, like I'm talking about before. These group of army guys, they're on the watch in this one house and in this neighborhood, and it becomes like a siege film where they have to get out of there. And again, it's Alex Garland's writing. I think he is one of the great contemporary filmmakers. And I know he was a novelist at first. He wrote the book for the he wrote The Beach, which got adapted into a film by Danny Boyle, and he wrote 28 Days Later. I get that, but to me, it's like, and I'm not giving him all the credit here. Obviously, Ray Mendoza in the film co-wrote it, co-directed it. But just the intensity of this film, how frightening it is when the violence actually happens. It's like very uncomfortable, where characters just pleading for their lives, and just the brutality of it all, and the intensity of the first half. I don't think there's any score in the film, and there's long sequences early on where you're just waiting. You're just like, you feel the pressure of these guys at any moment. It can get really bad, and there was one moment that almost made me jump, where the violence kick-started, and I'm like, whoa, man, that's frightening. I couldn't do this, man. I'm watching this in the theater, and I'm on the edge of my seat. I said that twice now. I'm such a fan of Alex Garland. I'm not a big fan of like all of his work. I'm like, Civil War I wasn't really crazy about. And Ex Machina, I kind of, I think it's good. I'm not crazy about, but like Annihilation, I think it was like that was like my number one or number two favorite film of that year. I think that's such a well done film. And then Men, I really liked as well. The third act I think kind of loses me a little bit, gets a little bit too out there in terms of it doesn't feel justified. Some of these crazy kind of visuals going on, but Men I think is a really good film as well. But yeah, Warfare. This might be my favorite of his work. Well, okay, maybe not my favorite of his work because Annihilation's there, but Warfare I think is really great as well. And yeah, watch it with a good sound system because when it actually hits, and when I'm talking about when I'm talking about Black Bag, when it's over, it's over. There's no, there is some some stuff in the credits. But when it comes to the actual filmmaking itself, and the movie's done, it's done, man. I mean, it doesn't. It really it says what it needs. It does what it needs to do, and then it gets out of there, and that's so refreshing. So Alex Garland for me right now is like is the one this year where I'm like, man, you got me on board with whatever you do next. I'll talk about two, because I'm running out of time here, so I want to talk about two isolated, I call them isolated dramas, two very different films. One that I think is really good, and one I might flat out love. And the one that I might flat out love, and if my girlfriend's listening to this, she's probably, she's going to be laughing because she's like, oh man, not this film. I love The Ballad of Wallis Island. I think this was such a... And I gotta say, I kept seeing this trailer. We kept seeing this trailer, and the trailer was very... I don't think the trailer sold the film very well. It was very schmaltzy, very kind of like... Very... I don't know. I don't think they sold the film the best way. Really good comedy drama. This isolated island, you have this guy there who's living... I forgot where it was exactly, but... he wins the lottery and he wants his favorite kind of artists, the musicians, to come to this island. And the camaraderie between them is so great. Tom Basden's playing this character, Herb McGuire. He really is he's very narcissistic. He very grumpy, doesn't want to be there. And the back and forth between him and Charles, played by Tim Kaye, is great. Charles lives a very, it's an island with not a lot of people on there. There's like this local shop that he goes to, and there's this woman that works there, and they have like a kind of a friendship. And man, I just thought this, and Carey Mulligan's in the film as well. I should also say she ends up coming into the picture too. But yeah, man, there was like one sequence in this film that I say I'm like almost getting emotional. And when I say I'm getting emotional, I'm not like crying or anything, but I'm really affected by it. It's like this one long sequence at the end of the film, and man, the photography of it, it's just three characters on the rocks, and I was like, my gosh, man, this is so touching and sincere because you like these characters. I mean, and even at the end of the film, when everything's not totally wrapped up, it's not like all the T's are crossed and the lowercase J's are dotted. There's still some things these characters have to work on, but when you get to the end of the film, I was like, man, that really kind of was the big surprise here of just how sweet I found this film. And also, I gotta say, I completely forgot to mention where these films can be watched. This is on Peacock as well. I probably love this film. I think this was one of the most genuinely touching and really sincere films of the year so far. Maybe don't watch the trailer. I don't think it sells very well, but great film nonetheless. And then the opposite in terms of tone is Bring Them Down, which with Barry Keoghan and Christopher Abbott, I think was his name. Yeah, Christopher Abbott. And again, this I think they're in Ireland in this one. It's a really, they're in Ireland in this small kind of area, and there's these horrific crime that's happened, and we jump kind of back and forth in time. The narrative kind of gets bent, and we follow these two kind of feuding families of Christopher Abbott's character Michael and Barry Keoghan, who plays Jack, and this is another one as well that I think the less said the better. It's a really gut punch of a film, but great performances from both of them. I think Christopher Abbott and Barry Keoghan are two of just really strong actors as is, and them together. Barry Keoghan's got this really kind of quiet sort of menace to him, and Christopher Abbott is one of these guys who, like, I see him in these films. They're both also both naturally funny too, not in this film, but they're both two actors who I've seen in other films. I'm like, man, these guys could be in a slapstick comedy. They're just that funny. They're both very good. But anyways, gosh, man, I have so many more films to talk about here, and I don't have this. Okay, I'm not gonna be able to get through the rest of these films, so I'm just gonna wrap it up here. So I'm talking a mile a minute. I'm like a madman right now. Anyways, man, what I want to say is that when you watch these films, form your own opinions, man. Don't fall into the social media. Maybe every film I mentioned, you're like, that film is terrible, Dan. You don't know what you're talking about. That's fine. I have no problem with that. But by gosh, man, stand by your opinion. Do not fall into the social milieu of, well, everybody else doesn't like this film, so I'm not gonna like this film too. And don't, just be contradictory. Don't be like, well, everybody hates this film. I'm just gonna say I love it to be different. Stand by your opinion, man. I know it's a crazy thing to say. You're gonna think like, of course, stand by your opinion. What are you talking about? But sincerely, just form your own opinion as to what you think of the film, man. Don't listen to everybody else is saying. And that's my main kind of point here. So yeah, hey man, that's all I got. Have a great 4th of July. Whether you're in America or not, have that 4th of July mentality. Be safe, be smart. If you got pets, keep them inside. People are crazy with fireworks, lighting them off. That's all I got to say, man. You guys take care. God bless. And here's to raise your glass. Here's to the rest of 2025 and then some.